All right. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about reverse takeovers. Now, we had a great example of this recently in terms of the takeover of Siboney by the Innovative Energy Group. So I'm going to be talking about that, just explaining what reverse takeovers are, and how you can see, I guess, potential opportunities for those. We do have an interview that we did with Siboney a few weeks back, so we're going to be able to air some excerpts from that interview. And then, of course, we just had the earnings call from Image Plus Consultants last week. So we're going to be talking about that company, just seeing where they are right now and what opportunities may be there for them moving forward. So let's get started. So a reverse, well, let's start with a takeover. So a takeover is a transaction or series of transactions whereby a person, that's an individual, a group, or a company, acquires control over the assets of a company, right? So that may be straightforward to most, but you may not, I guess, fully understand what a reverse takeover may be. So let's talk about that one. So a reverse takeover now, which is really the topic that I wanted to talk about today, is a process by which a private company becomes publicly traded without going through the initial public offer. So we know that, well, the typical path to being a publicly listed company is through the IPO. I think everybody understands the basics of an IPO, but what you may not appreciate is the process, right? So it's quite a lengthy process. There are a lot of things that you need to have in place. There's a lot of, behind the scenes work involved, and there's also a higher cost, right? So a reverse takeover now presents an opportunity for a company, for a private company to now become listed without having to go through that IPO process, right? So of course, there are some pros and cons of that. That's what we're going to talk about. So if you think about it, well, let's use the example of Siboney, right? That's what we're going to talk about here. So Siboney was taken over by FinSac in the 1990s, and some of you may not have been around at that time, but I certainly was. And then so FinSac would have sold now shares in Siboney to the IEC Energy Company Limited back in June of 2023, and that would have been sold at a specific share price, right? So the public company Siboney was taken over by FinSac, and then of course FinSac would be now would now have the ability to sell those shares to someone who's able to purchase those shares, right? So there's about 72% of the company that FinSac had, and so they're able to sell these shares. And this has been a story on our stock exchange in Jamaica for a while, right? I found articles going back to maybe 2020, 2021 talking about this. And so now, because of that acquisition of shares, the IEC Energy Company is able to now merge its operations with Siboney, and through that now become a listed company, right? So there's some things that would usually happen from here, like normally you change a company name, which is one of the things they would have done gotten approval for at their last AGM. And the reason why you do that, of course, is that you don't want, I guess, the public, persons who may relate to the company, to think about the former company that you have now taken over, right? The market has treated with Siboney a certain way over the past couple of years, and so the Innovative Energy Group would want to, I guess, kind of move away from that, right? So even in the conversations that you've seen with them, they're focusing a lot on saying, it's the new Siboney, this idea that they want you to not think about it as the old company, which has seen some interesting trading patterns. But now they're able to now integrate their operations with the company, and then from then they're able to now fulfill the mandate of the company, which is clearly from the name focused on energy, and we're going to see a little bit about that in the interview in terms of what their focus is, etc. All right. So I wanted to take a quick look at Siboney here. You're looking at the chart for the last 12 months, right? And it's up 200% over the last 12 months, right? And if you look at that sharp spike in the graph, you'll see it's around June of last year, right around the time that the announcement would have been for that purchase of shares being completed, right? Lots of articles published about it. You can learn more about it there. But of course, you've seen that this has led to more trading of the company, higher price for the company. And of course, everybody is kind of waiting to see what now becomes of the company moving forward. They'll be doing things like officially renaming the company, and they've started to make a thrust in terms of marketing and promotion, just to let you know what their plans are, right? Some details about SONY. A lot of this is suspected to change in the next few months. So for example, there have been talks of a capital raise that's needed to execute the projects for the Innovative Energy Group. So these shares outstanding may very well change. Market cap currently is 851 million. And then of course, it's trading between $1.50 and $1.65. And as I mentioned, in the last, in the last year or so, it would have, taken great strides in terms of the stock price, right? So let's look at now the interview that we did with Nigel Davey from the Innovative Energy Group and Wayne Ray, a member of the board, right? So let me load that right now.
Nigel Davey, Executive Chairman of the Innovative Energy Group, formerly SONY.
Okay. So tell us about the Innovative Energy Group. What do you do?
Well, of course, Innovative Energy Group will be a new entity. However, our focus will be on green energy, of course, engineering, construction, which spans going to be civil, mechanical, and electrical. And of course, as we outlined earlier today at our AGM, we'll be focused on growth opportunities, whichever sector that falls in.
Mm-hmm. So who would be your target client, and what would be some of the services that you're providing? So give us maybe a tangible example of something that you may do.
Okay, so as I've hinted to earlier today, we are looking at potentially acquiring Innovative Energy, DBA IEC SPEI Limited, which is a Jamaican company, and the focus of that entity is predominantly energy related. We're in the cogeneration space using the capsule microturbines or other technologies as the case may be, and we'll be looking to further developing renewable energy projects, which will span solar, wind, hydro, waste to energy as the case may be. So Innovative Energy, DBA IEC SPEI Limited, we currently are working on several projects which spans solar at the Normalize International Airport, another major project with the National Irrigation Commission, and of course at the Sangster International Airport. And we'll be looking at more of those large-scale opportunities. However, we are going to focus on residential and small commercial opportunities in the RE space. And when I say RE space for those type of clients, we're looking at not only solar, but battery energy storage. So we have a strategic alliance established with Huawei International, which is a Chinese company, to basically market their product. We have used their systems at the National Irrigation Commission project in St. Elizabeth. And during the phase 4 at the Sangster International Airport, we will be using the Huawei product. On the residential side, we're looking to work with individual residential households, but one of our focuses will be to work with developers of housing solutions, and not only the high end or mid end. We want to go to the low income houses also, because that has opportunities for us, and of course will continue, or will contribute rather, to the government's RE goal. And as maybe your listeners or you may know, the government's goal being 50% RE by 2037, it's daunting because it's a lot, and utility scale solutions will not only solve the problem. So we have to look at commercial clients, residential clients, and residential spans high-end, middle-income, low-income housing. So that gives you a flavor as to what is to come from the new Siboney after, especially the acquisition. I should also mention that we have a joint venture with Wigton Wind Farm Limited, and we are hoping to strengthen that joint venture and do more bigger and better things with that joint venture. And of course, it's going to be to our mutual benefits, to Wigton's and to ours.
Okay. So what does the next 12 months look like for you in terms of focus as a company that is now going to be, having to speak with shareholders, quarterly reports? What does the next 12 months look like in terms of focus?
Okay, so the first half of 2024, we're looking to close a few transactions which I can't speak about at this juncture, which we're currently discussing, and those span acquisitions of companies within the energy space, not only RE, but energy and construction at this point in time. So the next 6 months in 2024, we're going to look to just focus on those transactions, and we're hoping to close at least 2 or more during the first 6 months. The next 12 months next year, of course, we want to continue that thrust, and of course, with all that, we have to go to the market to raise capital so we can make these things a reality. But we have been talking to several potential, target companies that we want to acquire to grow the business. Where Siboney is coming from, there will be no intrinsic growth per se. It's going to be through mergers and acquisitions.
Okay. Do you have a preference for capital raise, as in a method?
Not really. What I will say, as I've articulated earlier, is going to be via an APO. It's going to be perhaps through private equity. We're going to go into the bond market, and we're looking at the green bond market, of course. And of course, we will look also at the traditional commercial banks or development bank, if you will. But our board of directors, through our finance, investment, and technical committee, will provide the necessary guidance so we can raise capital most efficiently and on the best terms.
Okay. So what would you say to shareholders who might not have an appreciation for the new Siboney, right? What would you say to them as you take on this next phase of your journey?
Stay with us, hang with us. Great things are coming. That's what we'll say.
All right.
Hi, name is Wayne Ray. I'm a company director of the new Innovative Energy Group, formerly known as Siboney Group Limited.
Okay. And what's your take on how things have been progressing for the past year? How the strides that you've made in where you are as a group, and now this milestone of having your AGM?
Well, it has been a journey. I consider it to be short because the long journey is ahead. But it has gone mostly according to how we had planned. We saw an opportunity, others saw an opportunity, and now we are deemed to make that opportunity a reality. And so that is all that you can really ask for, to be on the track towards making an opportunity a reality.
Okay. What does the path for growth look like?
Well, every morning I get up and I see this wonderful blue sky, and I realize that once you are in an environmental sector whereby you see those around you and the things around you contributing to your own commercial livelihood, that's the business that we're in. That is the vision that the company sees. I'm speaking specifically about energy, specifically about energy of the sun, of the wind, of the soil, and those are things that are of interest, and not only of interest, but those are the life, and that's what we present to our investors, to the public, that we are going to be able to marshal those resources towards making a better life for our citizens, but also for the investors and the staff that will be working with us for the future.
Okay. So a lot was said during the AGM about the role of partnerships. How important is that for you in the way forward?
Well, partnerships are key. We can't do it by ourselves, and that's why I spoke about the elements, the people, and why you're doing it, the life. And therefore, partners, different disciplines, different fields, different countries are going to have to come together to make this a reality. Capital resources are going to be large, and therefore one would have to look outside of the shores. The technical expertise, particularly in various areas, they are domiciled, particularly in this company, but we know that there are others around in Jamaica, as well as across the region and the world. So it is mobilizing all of those expertise and resources to making this the reality that we envision.
All right, so that was the interview with the Innovative Energy Group. So a lot to take away from that. As you could tell, there are likely to be some announcements for acquisitions coming up within the first 6 months of this year. We're gone 1 month, so 5 more months to go until we see something relating to that. Might be sooner, who knows. There will likely be some form of capital raise required to complete some of the projects that they're hoping to undertake. You also got an idea as to the type of clients that they'll be going for, some of the work that they'll be doing, both residential and larger projects. So that gives you an idea, of course, to kind of look at this company as a new company altogether, right? And so we started this conversation about the reverse takeover, understanding that a private company has an opportunity to completely, redefine themselves, get access to the public markets, and being able to move their business forward through this medium. So hopefully that gave you some context as to the company. And of course, we'll be looking forward to more opportunities to speak with them, maybe hear some more about their plans. And then, of course, if there's anything that comes to market, we'll likely, be featuring them on the platform at that time. All right, so let's go to stock highlight for this week. So every week, we're going to be highlighting at least one stock. In this case, we're starting with Image Plus because we would have done their earnings call recently. So we have a deeper context with this company than we would have with most. So we'll just go through the highlights, and then we'll talk about the outlook for the company, really, which is really the focus of this segment, and that will be based on just the outlook that was shared by the CEO at the recent earnings call. All right, so Image Plus has been on the market for a little over a year now, has not seen much growth, meaning the all-time high is $2.60. Their IPO was $2, but it's been trading mostly around, as you can see, that kind of $2 mark, right? So at some point in July, it went as high as $2.60, and then it's found its way back close to around the IPO price. That's where it's been trading for a while, and of course, there has been questions at the earnings calls, AGM, etc., about the share price, and then of course, the company would have just mentioned their thoughts on that. If you want to see those, be sure to check out those interviews. All right. In terms of the company, they released their third quarter results a while back. So that's what we did the earnings call for. So they're able to do $869 million in 9 months. All right, so that's close to that $1 billion mark again. And so it seems to me, at least, that they're likely to surpass that for the year. And that's something to look forward to as a junior market company. They do have a tax break, so the profit before tax and net profits are going to be the same for a number of years. And their earnings per share stands at 13 cents. And as I said, the stock price kind of hovers around, between that kind of $1.90 to $2.05 mark most weeks. And then, of course, this is expected to likely change over time. in terms of their assets, 1.5 billion. Now they would have acquired or made the steps to acquire a new location. That's going to be talked about shortly. And so that move by them seems to be an investment in infrastructure. They've launched a new modality recently in terms of the MRI. They do have ownership into another MRI company, but they've taken the steps to do their own at their Ocho Rios location. And so there seems to be the company's kind of strategy to build out their modalities similar to what they would have shared in their prospectus. And then they seem to try to focus on particular points within the island where they can serve the most clients, or at least that's the impression that we get from what they've done so far. And so the focus will be for the next few months to maybe a year or so on building out the new location. They did mention, potentially needing to raise funds for that and so on. And there has been talks of looking at opportunities for inorganic growth. And of course, you're going to see that interview shortly. In terms of just some information about the company, market cap stands at 2.42 billion, and the shares outstanding currently is 1.2 billion. So a lot of shares outstanding so far. I haven't gotten the impression as to how they would be seeking to raise additional capital as yet, should they need to do that. So we'll see how this, how the market cap or the shares outstanding change with anything that may come. All right, so let's look at the interview with Keisha Anderson, CEO of Images.
I think that what we have demonstrated as an entity is that we were able to manage through the challenge of the CT machine being down. Yes, it did impact our revenue numbers, but I think because of the experience of our combined team, you would have noted that the impact was managed and we prepared ourselves for what I would call, for lack of a better word, a recovery period when all our machines were back up and running and modalities on full offer. Outside of that, I would say that the future continues to be very, very bright. So given what we have achieved thus far and what we have left to do, the areas of focus would be on one, looking at the property at 33 L.E.A.R.N. We prepared a brief in terms of what we require and the square footage that we require to offer services, not just now, but looking at growth for the future. And so we shared that with architect, and we have received a design. So we'll continue to finalize those designs and determine any approvals that we require, and to also look at the different opportunities that are open to us to actually now develop that property. We're not at this time thinking that we're going to do it by ourselves, but what is very clear is that the property being ours would represent an important stake in that project and would ensure that our goal of owning our home for our 3A Winchester Road location, as well as for our headquarter operations, would be realized. We also are looking at the implementation of the MRI modality. So it being put in for February, we'll now look at what we need to do to ensure that we grow it in keeping with our projections and ensure that our marketing team is on the road advising people that it is now here. You may recall, our shareholders, that we actually have a 30% stake in WMRI, which is in Kingston, but this is now going to be our 100% owned MRI facility in Ocho Rios. And we chose that location strategically based on the offerings in that area and the surrounding communities and the opportunities that exist based on the demand for that service, and to provide that kind of imaging for doctors and their patients in that area. And then we are also examining some opportunities that have come across our what I call purview, to look at ways that we can grow inorganically. So organic growth would be growth from us just word of mouth, increasing our number of patients, our marketing team going out there, we're giving good service so that the word of mouth of our patients tell other family members to come and try us out. Because we do know that even though a patient may get a referral form from their doctor with the test to be done, even if it's another entity, patients call around and they check prices and they take advice from those that they trust. So we grow organically that way, but we're going to look at our inorganic growth opportunities, because we did indicate at a high level we wanted to look at expanding our footprint. And so if those opportunities present themselves, as a few are now, we're going to examine them in the best interest of our company and you, our shareholders.
Right. So you got that, sort of context from Keisha just now, as I mentioned, and a few things that may be in the pipeline for them. Looking forward to how things progress there. A few things that I wanted to mention before we close out this episode, a couple of things that came in today as I was preparing for this episode and thought I'd mention. So persons would have heard about the fact that iCreate would have been sent a notice by Sagicor, would have been brought into receivership. And of course, we saw an article today that has been settled. So that is no longer an issue. And looking forward to hear more about just, I guess, the state of the company. The company has been suspended again for trading. So it's not being traded currently. And so there's still a lot of uncertainty around the company, but certainly that is, I guess, one step in the right direction for the company. Next thing that I saw that I thought was interesting to share was there's a story about, let me get the name. There's a music licensing company in the US that was planning to cross-list to Jamaica. Let me share the screen now, because that just came today. There are not a lot of details about it, but it seemed interesting enough to include just as we kind of close out this episode. So it says here that the US-based firm threatens legal action against two Jamaican entities, that's a JSC and QMax. QMax would have been the broker in this case. So usually when a company is seeking to list or cross list, there's usually a broker involved. All right, so it just says it's threatened legal action. Didn't really get into the details as to what it thinks is grounds for that. The JSA has since released a statement to say they're not really sure why there are any issues, and of course to say that their role is just to provide information and facilitate whatever the company would want to do. So that is interesting to see. So I'm looking forward to getting more information about that. And the final story that I wanted to share, let me find that. The JSC conference was last week, and there was a story about the government seeking to maybe list some of their infrastructure entities. I thought that was very interesting. So let me zoom into that and see how much we can get about it in this short time. So it says over the next 12 months, and this is an article on Loop, the government intends to list some of its shares in several infrastructure entities on the JSC. These entities include South Jamaica Power, Trans Jamaica Highway, and the Jamaica Public Service. And we've been hearing about JPS listing for a while now. Haven't really gotten much. I think it was supposed to be last year, and I thought it was supposed to be the year before as well. So it keeps being pushed back. But this article mentioned that the hope is that this will be done in the next 12 months. So the listing is expected to be done via a special infrastructure vehicle. We'll need to hear more about that. And of course, it was announced at the JSC conference that took place last week. So I thought this was interesting to share. And a quote here says, "We would not simply move these assets. What we would simply do is move these assets into a vehicle that we own 100%, and we would list that vehicle and invite participation in that vehicle from institutions. And we plan, all being well, to have that done in the next 12 months, right? So this was in January 2024. So the hope is that by the end of the year. So I thought that was interesting. And I've been looking at just, I guess, the slow, I would say maybe it's some more activity in the market. Let me know what you think. Are you seeing the same thing? Because I am seeing what feels to me at least more participation, more trading, and some prices are trending up slightly. And so I think this may be where we see that turnaround in terms of what we've been seeing in terms of trading for the past 2 years, maybe. So it'd be interesting to see how that tracks. But let me know what you think in the comments, and we'll see how it goes. So to close out this episode, I just want to highlight our sponsor for this episode, which is our 12-month investment challenge. So we've started to onboard persons within this challenge already, and you're still able to join if you want to learn how to invest, learn how to build momentum on the stock market. And we're doing this throughout the year. So at any point that you watch this and you're interested in joining, you can sign up. You'll have access to the previous videos and challenges that we've done, and you'll be able to just integrate into that community that we've formed. So that's the sponsor for today's episode of Market Money. So looking forward to seeing you in the challenge community. All right, that's it for our episode today. Let me know what you think of this very first episode. Let me know what companies or topics you'd like me to cover, what stocks you'd want me to review, and we'll see how it goes as we try to just make this an interesting show for you, and one that will provide value in terms of your investment decisions. We do have a great episode coming next week, so I'm looking forward to that one. I can't reveal who the guest will be, but it should be an interesting episode. So I hope to see you then. So I'll see you in the next one.